Vaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudite Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 6, the Yadu dynasty retires to Prabhas, text 25 onwards. So Brahmaji is glorifying the Lord, praying to the Lord. Yadu vanshe avatirnasya bhavata purushottama sharatchatam vyatiyaya pancha vinshadhikam prabho. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O my Lord, you have descended into the Yadu dynasty, and thus you have spent 125 autumns with your devotees. So the Lord spent 125 years on this earth. Nadhuna te akhiladhara devakarya avasheshitam kulam cha viprashapena nashtaprayam abhudidam tata swadhama paramam vishwasva yadi manyase Saloka lokapalana pahi vaikuntha kinkaram. My dear Lord, there is nothing remaining at this time for your Lordship to do on behalf of the demigods. You have already withdrawn your dynasty by the curse of the Brahmins. O Lord, you are the basis of everything. And if you so desire, kindly return now to your own abode in the spiritual world. At the same time, we humbly beg that you always protect us. We are your humble servants, and on your behalf, we are managing the universal situation. We, along with our planets and followers, require your constant protection. See, here Brahmaji is saying, we are your humble servants, and on your behalf, we are managing the universal situation. So, it's not that Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh is the supreme because that's what we have studied or heard. No, Krishna is the supreme. Rest, everybody, they're working, they're managing the universal situation on Krishna's behalf. Shri Bhagavan Uvach Avadhari Tametan Me Yadhath Vibudheshwara Kritam Vah Karyam Akhilam Bhumer Bharu Avataritaha. The Supreme Lord said, O Lord of the demigods Brahma, I understand your prayers and requests. Having removed the burden of the earth, I have executed everything that was required on your behalf. Tadidam yadavakulam vireshore shriyodatam lokam jigrikshadrudham me veliyeva maharanavaha. That very Yadav dynasty in which I appeared became greatly magnified in opulence, especially in their physical strength and courage, to the extent that they threatened to devour the whole world. Therefore, I have stopped them, just as the shore holds back the great ocean. The heroes of the Yadu dynasty were so powerful that even the demigods could not check them. The enthusiasm of the Yadus was unlimitedly increased by their victories in dangerous battles, and they could not be killed. Due to their martial spirit, they naturally desired to establish a power over the whole world. Therefore, the Lord checked them and withdrew them from the earth. Yadi asamritya driptanam yadunam vipulam kulam gantasmayanena lokoyam udvelena vinanshati. If I were to leave this world without withdrawing the overly proud members of the Yadu dynasty, the whole world would be destroyed by the deluge of their unlimited expansion. This is how powerful the Yadu dynasty was. Just as a tidal wave overwhelms the boundary of the shore and wreaks havoc on innocent people, similarly, there was imminent danger that the powerful Yadu dynasty might expand beyond all boundaries of social and political control. The members of the Yadu dynasty had become proud because of their apparent familial relationship with the personality of Godhead, because they all were part of the family of Krishna, and they were powerful, protected always by Krishna. So they had become proud. Although they were very religious and devoted to Brahminical culture, they had become, as indicated by the word, Driptana, affected by pride due to their relationship with Krishna. Furthermore, due to their intense love for Krishna, they would certainly feel such intense separation after the Lord's departure to the spiritual world that they would become maddened and thus become an unbearable burden on the earth. So this was this was Krishna's fear. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has pointed out that, however, that the earth herself, due to attachment for Krishna, would never consider Krishna's own family members to be anything but a welcome burden. Still, Krishna wanted to remove this burden. The example is given that for the pleasure of her husband, the beautiful young wife may decorate herself with many golden ornaments. These ornaments constitute a painful burden for the delicate wife, but although she is willing to bear this burden, the loving husband removes the ornaments for the pleasure of his wife. So the Lord, desiring to apply the wisdom of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, took precautions to remove from the earth the burden of the Yadu dynasty. So just imagine Krishna appears Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam, but in the end he also removed his own dynasty, own family, because he was afraid that they'll create havoc on earth after I leave. So don't we think Krishna will always, always, always take care of the worldly situation, even in Kali Yuga? In Kali Yuga, he came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, obviously, but the purpose of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not to kill any demons, but to kill their demoniac consciousness. But even after so, if they don't change their consciousness, then Krishna himself doesn't have to come. He can create any situation. All the demons will kill each other. Or as Kali Yuga has to progress, has to go on, but Mahaprabhu, since he has blessed 10,000 years of Kali Yuga, so 10,000 years Kali Yuga will not take full effect, but afterwards it will. And then Krishna will come as Kalki Avatar. Of course, we can say it will be very, very later in Kali Yuga. But if Krishna wants, or whatever is going to happen after 10,000 years and before the end of Kali Yuga, Krishna will make his arrangements to get rid of the demons. He will do. He will, his energies, nature, whoever, they will take care. Krishna always does. That faith has to be there. Idanim nash arabdha kulasya dvijashapaja yasyami bhavanam brahman etadante tavanaga. Now, due to Brahman's curse, the annihilation of my family has already begun. O sinless Brahma, when this annihilation is finished and I am en route to Vaikuntha, I will pay a small visit to your abode. Brahmaji must be really overjoyed that Krishna is going to come to my abode, Brahmaloka. The members of the Yadu dynasty are eternal servants of the Lord. Therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami has explained the word Nasha or destruction as Nigudhayam Dwarkayam Praveshanam iti artha. The members of the Yadu dynasty entered into the hidden or confidential Dwarka in the spiritual world, which is not manifested here on the earth. In other words, Dwarka, the Lord's abode, is manifest on the earth, and when the earthly Dwarka is apparently removed, the eternal Dwarka in the spiritual world remains as it is. Since the members of the Yadu dynasty are eternal associates of the Lord, there is no question of their destruction. Only our conditioned vision of their manifestation was destroyed. This is the meaning of the word Nasha. So yes, Dwarka is same as spiritual Dwarka. It just manifests on the earth for Krishna's pastimes. So when Krishna had to wind up his pastimes, his Yadu dynasty goes back to spiritual Dwarka. Well, it is also spiritual when it is on earth, but just for matter of discussion. So earthly Dwarka also goes back. So whatever Dwarka is hidden under the ocean, it's just a very small percentage. And the original spiritual Dwarka just disappeared. Shri Shukvacha, iti yukto lokanathena swayambhu pranipatyatam sahadev ganer devah swadham samapadyata. Shri Shukdev Goswami said, thus addressed by the Lord of the universe, the self-born Brahma fell down in obeisances at the lotus feet of the Lord. Surrounded by all the demigods, the great Brahma then returned to his personal abode. अथ तस्यां महोत्पातान् द्वारवत्यां समुत्थितान् विलोक्य भगवानाः यदुवृद्धान् समागतान्. Thereafter, the personality of God had observed that tremendous disturbances were taking place in the holy city of Dwarka. Thus the Lord spoke to the assembled senior members of the Yadu dynasty as follows. There is no possibility of actual disturbances or inauspicious events in holy places inhabited by saintly persons. Thus, the so-called disturbances in Dwarka were directly enacted by the personality of Godhead for his own auspicious purpose. Shri Bhagwan Vacha, Ete Vesu Mahotpata, Vyuttishtanti Sarvata, Shapascha, Na Kulasyasid, Brahmanem Bhyoduratyaya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, our dynasty has been cursed by the Brahmins. Such a curse is impossible to counteract, and thus great disturbances are appearing everywhere around us. Na vastavyam ihasmabhir jijivishur bhiryarikaha prabhasam sumahat punyam yasayamo adyava machiram. My dear respected leaders, we must not remain any longer in this place if we wish to keep our lives intact. Let us go this very day to the most highest place, Prabhas. We have no time to delay. Many demigods coming to the earth to assist Lord Krishna in his pastimes took birth within the Yadu dynasty and appeared as Lord Krishna's associates. When the Lord had completed his earthly pastimes, he wanted to send these demigods back to their previous service in universal administration. Each demigod was to return to his respective planet. The transcendental city of Dwarka is so auspicious that whoever dies there immediately goes back home, back to Godhead. But because the demigod members of the Yadu dynasty in many cases were not yet prepared to go back to Godhead, they had to die outside the city of Dwarka. Thus Lord Krishna, pretending to be an ordinary living being, said, we are all in danger. Let us all immediately go to Prabhas. In this way, by his Yog Maya, Krishna bewildered such demigod members of the Yadu dynasty and led them away to the holy place, Prabhas Kshetra. Since Dwarka is Param Mangal, the most auspicious place, not even an imitation of inauspiciousness can take place there. Actually, Lord Krishna's pastime of removing the Yadu dynasty is ultimately auspicious. But since it outwardly appeared inauspicious, it could not take place in Dwarka. Therefore, Lord Krishna led the Yadus away from Dwarka. After having sent the demigods back to their planets, Lord Krishna planned to return to the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, in his original form and remain in the eternal city of Dwarka. So, Krishna's mercy, we have had the chance, good fortune to visit Prabhas Kshetra and Dwarka. Wonderful place, wonderful place. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has made the following important comments on this verse. In chapter 30 of the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is written that after hearing the words of Shri Krishna, the Yadavas went to the mainland from the island city of Dwarka by means of boats and then traveled to Prabhas in chariots. At Prabhashetra, they drank a beverage called Maireya and became engaged in mutual quarrel. A great battle ensued, and killing each other with hard stalks of cane. The members of the Yadu dynasty acted out the pastime of their own annihilation. Lord Krishna, manifesting his four-armed form, sat down under a peepal tree, placing his left foot, the heel of which was colored red like a red coca nada lotus, upon his right thigh. A hunter named Jara, watching from the shore of the ocean at Prabhas, mistook the Lord's red-colored foot to be the face of a deer and shot his arrow at it. At the base of that same peepal tree under which Lord Krishna had sat, there is now a temple. 1 mile away from the tree on the seashore is Veer Prabhanjan Matha, and it is said that from this point the hunter Jara fired his arrow. In conclusion to his work, Mahabharata Tatpara Nirnay, Sri Madhvacharya Pad has written the following purport to the Moshal Leela. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in order to bewilder the demons and ensure that the word of his own devotees and that of the Brahmins we maintained, created a body of material energy into which the arrow was shot. But the Lord's actual four-armed form was never touched by the arrow of Jara, who is actually the Lord's devotee, Bhrigu Rishi. In a previous age, Bhrigu Muni had placed his foot on the chest of Lord Vishnu. In order to counteract the offense of improperly placing his foot on the Lord's chest, Bhrigu had to take birth as a degraded hunter. But even though a great devotee willingly accepts such a low birth, the personality of Godhead cannot tolerate seeing his devotee in such a fallen condition. Thus, the personality of Godhead arranged that at the end of Dwapar Yuga, when the Lord was winding up his manifest pastimes, his devotee Bhrigu, in the form of the hunter Jara, would shoot the arrow into a material body created by the Lord's illusory energy. Thus, the hunter would become remorseful, gain release from his degraded birth, and go back to Vaikuntha Loka. Of course, there are other pastimes also. Some says it was Bali who was killed by Lord Ram when Ram was hiding behind a tree and Bali was fighting Sugriv, and Ram shot an arrow at Bali, and Bali came back at Jara, hunter, to finalize that pastime, to give it back to Lord Ram. Oh, different kalpas could be different, or different days of Brahmaji could be different pastime going on. We don't know. There's so many pastimes. Therefore, to please his devotee Bhrigu and to confuse the demons, the Supreme Lord manifested his Moshal Leela at Prabhas. But it should be understood that this is an illusory pastime. Why illusory? Because how many times we can think, if somebody shoots an arrow at the sole of the foot and the person dies by that arrow shot. How is it possible? If he had shot the arrow at the heart, okay, it could be understood. But he shot the arrow at the sole of the foot. No person dies if he gets shot at the sole of his foot. And here, as Acharyas have explained, Krishna created this illusory material body. And this is to confuse the demons or the people who will have demoniac tendencies. Because Krishna's pastimes are all divya. He wanted to unmanifest his pastimes, but not thinking that anybody can kill him. He is Satchitananda Vigraha. Nobody can kill a soul. He explained about the soul in Bhagavad Gita. Soul cannot be killed, cannot be cut to pieces, cannot be burned, you cannot do anything to it. So when the soul cannot be cut to pieces, how can the Supreme Lord be killed? He just performs these pastimes, confusing pastimes, to bewilder the demons, and also at the same time, for us, neophyte devotees, for us to understand, we cannot just understand Krishna's pastimes on our own. So we have to take shelter of a bona fide guru and then try to understand his pastimes. And then there is some possibility we can understand. The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, from his very appearance on the earth, did not manifest any of the material qualities of ordinary human beings. The Lord did not appear from the womb of his mother. Rather, by his inconceivable power, he descended into the maternity room. At the time of his giving up this mortal world, he similarly manifested an illusory situation for the sake of bewildering the demons. To bewilder the non-devotees, the Lord created an illusory body out of his material energy while simultaneously remaining personally in his own Sachidanand body, and thus he manifested the downfall of an illusory material form. This pretense effectively bewilders foolish demons, but Lord Shri Krishna's actual transcendental eternal body of bliss never experiences death. Also at Prabhashetra, there is a holy place known as Bhrigutirtha, which was manifested by Lord Parshuram. The place at which the two rivers, Saraswati and Hiranya, flow together into the ocean is named Bhrigutirtha, and there the hunter shot his arrow. There is an elaborate description of Prabhas Tirtha in the Prabhas Khanda of the Skanda Purana. There are also many Falashrutis given within the Mahabharata in connection with Prabhas Tirtha. Falashrutis are scriptural statements that promise various auspicious results for one who performs a particular pious activity. In the following verses, the Lord himself will explain the particular benefits to be derived from visiting Prabhashetra and performing religious activities there. Yatra snatva dakshashapa, the grihito yakshmano adurat, vimukta kilbishat sadyo, bheje bhuya kalodayam. Once the moon was afflicted with consumption because of the curse of Daksha, but just by taking bath at Prabhashetra, the moon was immediately freed from his sinful reaction and again resumed the waxing of his phases. Vayam jatasmin adluptya tarpitva pitrin suran dhojitvo shijo bipran nana gunvatandhasa teshu danani patreshu shraddhyoptva mahantive vrijinani tareshyamo danar nobhir ivarvanam. By bathing at Prabhashetra, by offering sacrifice there to placate the forefathers and demigods, by feeding the worshipable Brahmins with various delicious foodstuffs, and by bestowing opulent gifts upon them as the most suitable candidates for charity, will certainly cross over these terrible dangers through such acts of charity, just as one can cross over a great ocean in a suitable boat. Shri Shukvacha, Evam Bhagavata Dishta, Yadva Kurunandana, Gantam Krita Dhiya Stirtham Syandanan Samyu Yujan. Shukdev Goswami said, O favorite son of the Kurus, thus advised by the personality of Godhead, the Yadavas made up their minds to go to that holy place, Prabhashetra, and thus yoked their horses to their chariots. Tannirikshyoddho rajan shutva bhagavatoditam drishtva rishtani ghorani nityam krishna manuvrataha vivikta upasangamya jagatam ishvareshwaram pranamya shirasa padav pranjalistam abhashata. My dear King, Uddhava was a constantly faithful follower of Lord Krishna. Upon seeing the imminent departure of the Yadavas, hearing from them of the Lord's instructions, and taking note of the fearful omens, he approached the personality of Godhead in a private place. He bowed down with his head at the lotus feet of the supreme controller of the universe, and with folded hands addressed him as follows. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, there cannot be any actual disturbance in the Lord's own abode. The great disasters apparently occurring in Dwarka were an external show created by the Lord to facilitate his pastimes. We can understand the pastimes of Krishna only by hearing from the recognized acharyas. Lord Krishna is not a mundane historical figure, and his activities cannot be confined within the tiny limits of material logic. Lord Krishna's pastimes are an exhibition of his Achintya Shakti, or inconceivable potency, which functions according to higher spiritual laws unknown to the blind conditioned souls and their petty material logic. So with our own logic, our own tiny little intelligence, we cannot understand Krishna's pastimes. No way. So one has to be a devotee, one has to take shelter of a bona fide acharya, and then with the faith, one has to approach Krishna, Krishna's pastimes, and by Krishna's mercy, to whatever extent we are surrendered, he can reveal his pastimes. So Uddhavji has approached Krishna. Now Krishna will give him instructions, which are called Uddhav Gita actually. So we'll take it up tomorrow. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mata.
Prabhuji, where is this Prabhas Kshetra? Is it near Dwarka somewhere?
Yes, near Dwarka. Not very near, it is little far away, but it is in that area, yes.
So how many days we take, we plan a trip? So how many days it will take? Like,
we
1 week.
did the whole
1 week.
1 week trip. Yeah,
Yes.
we did 1 week.
Achha, okay.
Because we went to so many other places also, no? Ahmedabad, and then Somnath, Dwarka,
Oh,
Porbandar.
Porbandar, Dakor,
okay.
Bindu Sarovar, so many places we covered.
Junagadh.
Yeah, Junagadh. And the cave where Krishna and
Jamat Gufa. Jamat Gufa.
Jaman Gufa.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah, it was a wonderful trip. Wonderful trip.
The next time we should change our focus from Vrindavan to other areas.
But then we need time.
We will, if we plan, you know, in this thing, advanced. I think when we can do this. At least for 1 week, though, I'm sure.
We have to see. Chalo, I guess we can stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Ram.